create lasting impact. And today I have my special guest. He is the CEO of Quantum Research, exposing the cellular, emotional, energetic, and spiritual blocks. None other than Mr. Stan
All right,
Kurtz.
buddy. How are you?
I'm fabulous, fabulous, and excellent, Mr. Stan. And how about you? Can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yeah, sure. Basically, I grew up with some family members that died of cancer, and it was quite brutal. My son ended up having major neurological condition that they said he'd never recover from. And with that, it put me on a journey to see. I kind of saw something at one conference one time where there was a scientist that said these kids may be very sick, essentially. He put up a slide showing there's high copper levels in the condition. And when I heard that, I was just like, wait, I was told that this thing is irreversible. There's nothing you can do and you're going to live a bad life. And when I saw that there was just even something where you showed that there was high copper levels, I was thinking, okay, there's got to be more to this. And I asked the researcher, how many other studies are there that show these kids are sick? This is 20 some odd years ago. And he said, there's a lot. And that really woke me up to the concept of we know so little about what's really going on. And I said, well, for the sake of my son, I'm gonna read every study that existed. There were 750. It took me a long time to get them, download them, learn them, learn the vernacular, learn how to figure out the motives of the scientists that wrote those studies. And from that, I developed a process, a protocol, whatever you want to call it, to start to investigate which things does he have that is common in science, and then what things can you do that are most safe and effective, natural. Doesn't matter where it came from. If it came from Asia, if it came from the Native Americans, if it came from the Amazon, didn't matter. But what are the things that can take care of the things that are underneath the condition according to science? And that process got him back. And he's 25 years old today and he's perfect. And since then, there's a lot of people, I guess, that since then that have had kids that recovered. And it's unusual. You don't hear about it, but it's absolutely true. Thousands of people I've worked with personally have kids that are no longer on the spectrum. And I mean autism as a standpoint of, is there a biological issue behind the scenes? Not the one where it's like, oh, I've got the Elon Musk version of autism and it's a superpower, because it really can be. Your unique gifts are superpowers. But what if there's things underneath it that are blocking that from being actuated in your body? And that's the things that we focus on and on a daily basis. So 20 years goes by, I learned that it wasn't autism. It wasn't kids that were on the spectrum. This is all kids, all humans have blockages that are going on inside their body, that have blockages that are going on in their thinking, that are in their spirituality too. If you want to go there or not, it's up to you. But these things affect the blood. And if something is affecting the blood, you're not at your best, to keep it simple. So we spend a lot of time looking at blood and looking at the things. There's only like one of the shocking things is that there's only like 6 or 7 things that are the major things that are the root causes of the 1,000 conditions that you know names of. That was the most shocking thing over time. I've many shocking things, but that's pretty much a shocking thing, that the simple is actually very true. The body's amazing, and there's like 6 things in there that when you start pulling that stuff out, if they have it, people, their consciousness, their abilities, their physical abilities, their mental abilities, and of course their abilities to move towards their purpose is greatly, like miraculously improved. So it's a little about the background and a little about the concept that brought us into the work that we do today, which is now 22 years later.
Well, thank you so much for sharing to the world, Mr. San. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's really funny.
Yes, so as the CEO of Quantum Research, you frame human limits as blocks across cellular, emotional, energetic, and spiritual layers. From the quantum perspective, how are these layers not separate but fundamentally enlarged in creating an early reality?
Yeah, those blocks you asked two things. Why are they fundamental? Why are they connected?
Yes.
What we find is, for example, on the highest level, I'll say it this way: from the core level of the body systems, generally speaking, a lot of the really important ones can focus on one way or the other. They can lean one way or the other. Okay, and there's a priority that the body has in how it responds to things. For example, in this room we have trash cans, and those trash cans get maintained and they get taken out as they fill up. Now, that makes sense, and you think, okay, there's nothing that is going to interfere with that. But one of the things that could happen is if somebody came in or something happened, there was electrical fire. If the fire is going and the fire department comes in and they start working on the fire, the trash doesn't get taken out. And the trash is basically like the environmental toxins, the metals, the pesticides, the plastics that are in the environment today. You're absorbing that stuff. Every time you shower, breathe, eat, drink, you're absorbing that. And your body systems to detoxify are very important. What happened in the case of my son is he was born with eczema, which is, as we've learned today, is a fungal infection. That's one of the ways to get to eczema, is a fungal infection, and some other things downstream. And so the fire is like a fungal infection. So if you have an infection that's longer than a couple days, you're going to have trash cans that are going to be overflowing. And if you have trash cans that are overflowing, you're going to have downstream problems physiologically and neurologically. I'm speaking generally, and I'm speaking from my perspective. Everybody needs to think for themselves how this applies to them, and know that we don't diagnose anything, and we're not really treating anything other than we're just helping people get to their best selves. So you have the trash and you have the fire. Well, you think, well, if a fire is going on, there was nothing that would take me away from a fire. But if there's a fire going, you're fighting the fire, and a tiger comes in the door and starts running after you, the game changes, and the fire is not as important as getting away from the tiger. The tiger, in the body's perspective, from my view, is trauma, is emotional challenge, because the body doesn't know the difference about what you're seeing. It just knows if you are panicked, if you are challenged, if you're grieving, if you are actively fearful. That stuff leads to a cellular response in the body, and we can see it under a microscope. So in other words, if you have perfect blood, which we've seen something similar to that after working with people, and then you go into your childhood traumas, and then you're working on spinning and playing the story in your mind about the childhood traumas. I had a situation where we started looking at that and seeing the blood of that person. That person's blood looks very similar to what blood of someone with cancer would look like, just because of their thinking, and it's instantaneous. People think, oh, it's something that happens over time. There's a storage over time, but in the moment, those cells will clump together in a way like panic. I visualize it like maybe the body's trying to expect that you're going to have an arm ripped off, so it wants to make the blood a little thicker so you can survive longer. I believe it's something like that that's going on. It's definitely a defensive posture. If the cells are like that, you are more likely to get infections. So it goes from trash, fire, infections. I mean, trash, fire, and emotion or trauma. And that's also related to the spiritual, because if you are grounded in your own spirituality, and if you believe that God or the universe is in everything, and anything that happens to you is just a puzzle, not something to ruminate over, then you're more likely not to get infections, in my view. So people that are bulletproof, like the ultimate actual sort of vax, is your thinking and being grounded all the time. This is why meditation and sort of spiritual practice is so important. So those things can help protect you from ever getting sick. And if you get sick, that's going to prevent you from detoxing on a daily basis. And if you have something that is chronic, you're going to have, in our experience, you're loaded with many more metals and toxins and things like that. So I think that's the crossroads of the emotional, spiritual, and then practice and environmental, and those things. The way science shows that you only perceive a very small percentage of reality, like 0.3%. Your eyes can only see certain light frequencies. Your ears can only hear certain sound frequencies, and we can only see certain dimensional frequencies let alone anything that's beyond sort of our what's known in our 3D space. But there's a lot going on. In fact, 99.7% of reality today, right now, that's all that you miss it. And your memory is only a portion of that, because if I ask you to repeat word for word a sentence that I said 3 sentences ago, you're not going to do very well. You'll get the concept, but that's how we record information, is concepts. The way you solve problems, in my view, and the way you expand your ability to see reality is you look for root causes for things. You logically approach things in a root cause, and then you piece by piece pick that apart, and you're going to go to the edge of your understanding. Unless you if you want to not if you want to be small, you rely on everybody else's understanding. Well, they're still only seeing 0.3% of reality, so it's the blind leading the blind. To me, my belief is we have to activate our point three as best as we can and take responsibility as best as we can. You work root causes, you work logic, and then you work that triangle I'm talking about, which is how is your background trauma doing, and how can you work on that, and how is your spiritual practice of, do you believe that everything that happens is for you and that you can actually puzzle anything that's given to you? And with that, does that diminish the fear? And if you get to a place without fear, your perception opens up, and I've seen that happen. It's remarkable. You get a huge perception burst, and in that, you're going to get sick less often. And if that's the case, you're going to be detoxing more, because your body is it's parasympathetic mode, which is it's calm and it's doing its normal thing. So that's how I would answer the crossroads of those things.
Interesting, Mr. Sun. So, in your research, is it a foundational block, a source code limitation that tends to cascade into other layers?
Yeah.
What does the unrevealing typical begin?
Well, the way we start is we look at a drop of blood. I don't need to know what's going on in the person's life and their story, and I don't need to know the quote unquote normal things that somebody might want to know, like, oh, tell me all your symptoms or anything. We don't do that. I mean, we learn them through time, but what we're looking for is what's in the blood, what's blocking it, and our research is about how can you affect that? How can you educate people to prevent against the things that are found? And in that, in a very short period of time, and we have incredible tools that are from the 1800s, and there's a lot of tech back there that has been sort of squashed, that we try to bring that back. There's a lot of approaches that were between, let's say, the early 1900s all the way into the 70s. There's a whole block of stuff that has been taken out. So we look at those things and look at anything from any culture, any part of the world, any philosophy, and then we start applying those things together. But the process starts with one drop of blood. I could certainly show you some examples if you want to. I can probably share
Go
screens. I
ahead.
think I can. Yeah. So let me do a share, and let me see what my options are real quick. Screen. Yeah, I like screen. Let's do the entire screen so I don't have to think twice about it. All right. So if we go into, I'm going to move this. Obviously, this is us. So if I go into some slides, I'll just move straight into it. Um, these are all different cases, but I want to get into some blood where we start. So, like, this is a guy on the left that came in very tired and was looking to improve his life. Strangely, he happened to be a man that was gay. And the reason I say that is, as I said, what is this we're seeing in the blood? This is all unusual. Any of those white circles that are glowing and that look perfectly circular, that's not a natural occurrence. So I said, what's going on? We see these sometimes. We saw this a lot during the COVID days. And I said, was it a COVID shot? What did you do? Is it water you're drinking, food? And he said, well, and I saw him a month before. His blood didn't look like this. He said, 3 days ago, I took a Hep B shot because, and I said, why? What are you trying to prevent? Or what do you, and he's like, well, I'm a gay man. So, it's a real concern. So these things were in his blood when he arrived. This is what happened 3 days later. So this type of thing, and some people say this is a technology. These are nanobots and actual technology. This is stuff that we thought was maybe only in the COVID vaccine. It was thought, and we're finding it in other places in this state. We also find them in medicines, and certain medicines. and we're kind of looking further at that. But even simple things like ibuprofen, we saw the other day, had the same kind of things in the ibuprofen and the same kind of things in the person that was taking it for a injury. So we were able to identify that, and in a short period of time get his blood better. That's blood on the right. This was a guy, his name is Standing Bear. He's from the Native American community. He had 5 heart attacks, and he had this is what he said. We don't, I wasn't there for the heart attack, so I'm just somebody that's repeating what somebody told me. But he had 5 heart attacks. I'm really careful about that. There's you have to be careful with your words when you're going public. So he also came in with how he defined himself as having diabetes, and he actually came, and the day he was coming, he had a seizure from his sugar levels. When we met him, he had a sugar level over 300. That's nuts. And he doesn't, want to do anything traditional because of things traumatically that happened to him in his childhood. Anyway, so that's how he arrived, and this is 4 hours later. And it's dramatically different. We had an 89-year-old that came in with very similar things, that was taking insulin shots, and when she was done, she hasn't taken one since, and it's been a long time. So this is a brain scan. This is different than what I was talking about. This is an early piece of research I did. This is like 18 years ago. There was a guy with ADHD and stomach pain, and this pattern shows you the slow wave activity, what's called theta wave activity in the brain. And then the green is normal compared to controls in a large database. And the yellow is double slow and red is triple slow. So if you're wondering why he had trouble paying attention and was hyper, this could be it. So we saw this, and we were able and the doctor who's a specialist in this that was on the team that day, he's like, yeah, this is a very common pattern. We have a video of this too. That's on that site you're scrolling through earlier. And he said, yeah, this is a common pattern. Well, this is a nasal spray. Afterwards, we gave a nasal spray with just some simple metabolites, but are really important for that area, that helps to methylate your brain chemistry, that helps to take out the trash at the same time downstream. And it's generally missing in people, which is really strange, because it's like there's a bacteria in the GI tract that doesn't exist much anymore in humans. And because of that, it doesn't get to the brain well. Well, if you sort of pre-methylate these metabolites and you get it into the nose, this is what happened immediately post. So his brain normalized. So the slow wave activity slowed down, but his meditative state, the back part of the brain, which this is a pattern that is a meditative state, which is low, slow wave frequencies in the brain, the back of the brain. His meditative state went up. His consciousness essentially got better, and his stomach pain went away, and his energetic issues improved. This in the blood is an example of someone that I put leukemia in quotes because we don't diagnose anything, but these are cells that are linked to looking like leukemia. That's the best way to describe it. And it's missing white blood cells. There's only like 8 or 9 on the screen. And then you have all these other things that are not supposed to be there. So there was a nurse that had that. She had trouble walking upstairs. She described herself as having long COVID. This was a bit ago. And she was really fatigued. And this is her post, literally like 3 days later. And that video is on our YouTube channel as well. So you can see these people, you can hear them say it, because hearing it from me is one thing, but hearing it from the people it happened to is, I find, pretty cool. This is pretty impactful. This is a 76-year-old. I'll stop here too. 76-year-old that had a recent diagnosis, she told me, of Alzheimer's. She was trying to figure out her options. She was also very anxious, stayed in the house all the time. The unique pattern in the blood here is that the red blood cells, these are red blood cells, they all stack on top of each other, but not only do they stack on top of each other, they look like peas. They look thin, like empty balloons stacked on top of each other. And this is a pattern that we see in what some people have diagnosed with this condition. And this was 4 hours later. And the symptoms that she described were gone. And she no longer described herself as having that condition. And she just went forward with her life. She is now 78 years old. So this is several years ago. Symptoms were gone from then and have not come back. Lots of energy. The cell count looks better. We often see that the count, when things go a little awry in one of those places of fight or flight, whether it's emotionally or in the body or a chemical thing, we're not sure what's going on, but the cells overperform proliferate and they get in the way. So the cell count here looks stunning. The cells look amazing. You see right through them. You don't see any inflammation. You don't see the stacking, and they look like they're hardy. Her verbal ability improved. She was a shut-in, and she became somebody that just went out into the world. This is a picture of her traveling. She didn't leave the house when she had her quote-unquote condition, and then afterwards, she traveled 6 times that year, several times internationally by herself. I'm just saying this as an idea, like, and you can meet her. Like, she comes by frequently, and we have videos of her and how she lives her life. You see that she's an artist on Facebook. All right, I'm going to do one last thing. This is an example of someone that had formerly had prostate cancer, is what he said. He had radiation to have the prostate, taken care of. So the markers for cancer were gone. But when we took a drop of his blood, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, nobody told your blood that you're recovered, because this pattern, this pattern that looks like a rug, these aren't stacked like what we saw in the last one. This is squished together and inflamed like oatmeal into a rug. And that's how he came in. I only had him for 4 hours because he had to go take a flight. He only came in to learn. He didn't come in to actually do anything. But this is how he was when he left. And this is 2 years ago. And we saw him this past year at a conference in Palm Springs here in California. And he said, I'm just doing amazing. So we have, this is what we're talking about. You asked the question, where do you begin? How do you look at the unblocks? Well, the plasma will have certain things in it. The cells will have certain things in it. The patterns will have certain things associated to it. And we've learned how to unravel those things. And what we find is people become completely different. And so that's kind of the work we do in an overall.
Interesting, Mr. Stan, and thank you so much for sharing to the world. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in 6th season, abstract poetry in 3rd season, and of course my book 101 review in 6th season as well, comedy 101 in 3rd season, and food 101 and 6th season as well. Geography 101, love letters, movie 101, review music 101 in its 5th season, science 101, sex 101, 4th season, trivia 101, law 101, mental health 101, motivation 101, entrepreneurship 101, and of course Bible verses 101 are my baby podcasts. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. So, Mr. Stan,
next we'll do all 201s. Like next year we'll do 201s. And
yes, definitely.
Let's do all the advanced versions of these.
Yes, definitely. So, Mr. Stan, what is the quantum research looking next? What is the dimension of human potential? Of what type or black, or are you our team most excited to understand and help people transform in their coming years?
It's a very good question. The thing that we're constantly looking at new technology. We're constantly looking at ways to enable people to do things at home. And there's 2 things. One, I'm in one place in California. People come to us from all over the world, but we're one place. So we are training some docs right now, for example, that we've helped, and we're working on those. So the expansion, I think, is important, and also how people can do things in their homes. So I'd say those are the things that we're looking at, as well as everyone that comes in teaches us something. So every day we're growing.
Every day expanding for sure, and looking forward for more success, Mr. Stan. So can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Entrepreneurship 101?
All right. This has been a great show. Thanks so much. I had a lot of fun. Stansrecoveries.com brings you to this site that you see on the screen, Stan's Recoveries, where we have hundreds of testimonials of different people that went through this process. Secondly, if you want to find out more and hear more things like Spotify, free things that we just give out, like sort of sermons about life, there's so much information on stanslinks.com. So it's stansrecoveries.com and stanslinks.com. Daniel, thank you very much. As always, I had a great time with you.
Likewise, Mr. Stan. Please do come over and let's promote your advocacy to the world. And people, let's support Mr. Stan Kurtz, because if you support him for sure more and more empowering advocacy like this to rise. So, Mr. Stan,
Amen.
thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day. Thank you,
Body
everybody.
people, see you soon.